with Collins Harlan.
Welcome to Hire Away. Hire Away, a show where we talk about jobs, we talk about business, but we talk with the people that are operating those businesses and doing those jobs, people with real skin in the game. So my name is Collins. I'm a staffing specialist with Labor Finders. And in St. Louis, we have two branches. We have one in North County and we have one in South County. But really, we have branches all over the country. So if you're looking for people, if you're looking to hire, all you have to do is go to laborfinders.com. That's laborfinders.com. You find the branch nearest you, you call them up, and we'll help you out. Now, today on the show, we have a very special guest. His name is Billy Crow. And he's an Arnold City Councilman, but he also has his own show, Jeffco Patriot Radio, every Sunday at noon. Actually, it's high noon, I'm told. Not just noon, high noon, because he's famous in these here parts. So we're going to talk about unions. We're going to talk about right to work. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. And so let's just get to it. Let's talk to Billy. Let's do this.
Hire away!
Billy Crow, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you're a member of the Arnold City Council.
Actually, Jefferson County Council.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Jefferson County
Yeah.
Council. But you have a radio show every Sunday at noon?
Every Sunday at noon, on News Talk STL 1019 94.1. And what we do is myself and my co-host, Tim Jones, who's the former Speaker of the Missouri House, we talk about all things Jefferson County. So a lot of politics, obviously, especially with the 2026 election coming up. But we also talk about small businesses in the area. We talk about nonprofits in the area and just issues that people are having.
I like the fact that you talk about nonprofits. That's an interesting segment of our business community. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they do a lot of good.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about right to work, but before we do, I want the audience members that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. So, what was the young Billy Crow like? How did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in southern Jefferson County. I graduated from Hillsboro, lifelong in Jefferson County, where we were hunting and fishing and going over to I-55 racetrack, dirt track on Saturday nights, and then, school sports. And so, that was my childhood. And for most of my life, it was, you never crossed M Highway. Nothing good happens north of M Highway, but the only good thing up there I found was my wife. So she lived in Arnold, and so we got married. We moved to Arnold, and so my dad was a lifelong union Local 36 sheet metal worker, and
cool.
After I got married, my dad said, "Okay, it's time to grow up, son. Here's your packet, and come be a union member, and we'll knock some sheet metal together." And so that's what I've done most of my life. Yeah,
That's fantastic. I grew up in a union home myself. Well, actually, that's not true. My grandfather worked at the steel mill in Granite City, Illinois, and he became a supervisor. My uncle worked there, my cousin, a bunch of my friends, my stepdad, and so I'm very familiar with the union with regards to that. Tell me, has the union been? I imagine the union's been good to you, but do you have any stories about like your dad? Any old war stories you could tell us?
Yeah, I mean, unions are like anything. They're made up of people, so there's good ones and bad ones, right? And there's good people and bad people in them. And so I'm a third generation union household. My grandfather was a union maintenance guy for Dial Soap, and then my dad was Local 36, and so was I. And so that's the only way I've been fed is through collectively bargained wages. And so, but my dad ended up in the last years before he had his stroke, he was a welding instructor down at our school, and he wasn't sure if that's really he knew he wanted to do it, but once he got down there, he had some second thoughts about it, just because, being around the hall, there's a little bit of office politics, right? But then he had one gentleman, it was like 2008 or 9 when the markets were really slow. We had like probably 30% of our membership was unemployed. And he had a guy come down there and said, "Hey, Billy, I'm laid off. Can you give me a welding certification?"
Billy meaning your dad?
My dad, yes.
Yeah.
I'm a junior, yes.
Gotcha.
Can you give me a welding certification? He said, "Sure, I'll work with you this week, and Friday we will test you for the certification." And so he worked with him all week. The guy did really good and stuck with it, and Friday he got his welding certification. And he just said, "Billy, I'm so thankful because now Monday I get to go to work and feed my family again," right?
Wow.
Because at the time, basically the only way you were going to get to work is if you had special certifications to go work at the nuclear power plants and stuff down in, I think it was in Georgia at the time. but that really stuck with my dad of like, it's not just teaching a trade. It's not just collecting a paycheck for him, but like he's helping people feed their family.
It's changing lives.
That's right. Yeah.
And you've seen so that's neat because not only are you a union member, but you've seen the union change lives and make people's lives better. That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And, and I've seen, again, 2008 to 10 when we were really slow. The last time in the 90s was the dot-com boom, and the union officials saw how hard that was on its members, saw members commit suicide because they lost everything, saw union members that got divorces because the financial burden was so hard, and they said, we're not going to do that again. And so they actually piled away a lot of money. And so when we were slow again, they were able to support a lot of out-of-work sheet metal workers. And we're not talking like workmen's or unemployment. We're talking the hall taking care of its members, $500, $400, $500 a week or a month in Schnucks gift cards to his members so they could feed their families, right? Other types of benefits that if you've been out of work for so long, you can help to pay your mortgage and things like that to make sure that in that slump that members didn't fall behind.
So you always hear unions say the word brotherhood, that we're a brotherhood, but they stood behind it.
They stood behind it. And it's really, and again, Local 36, I'm biased. I think they're the best. And because I know guys in other trades that, particularly the carpenters in particular, I've heard some stories. And I've got friends that are carpenters that are they're business agents, stuff like that. So, these are just the stories I've heard where, it was like, hey, like, sorry, we're out of work. Tough luck. Do what you got to do, but you're on your own. And that's hard, right?
It's very hard. Yeah. What do you think about, let's take another story. Let's take another angle at this, because here's a divided story. We all know that Boeing is having some issues here in St. Louis,
right,
with the strike. And I think the union would like their members here in St. Louis to have a package that's very similar to what goes on in Seattle with Boeing, correct?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, Boeing says no, and they've started to hire what they call replacement workers. Another word for that would be scabs.
Scabs, that's right. That's what those are called.
Yeah. So, what do you think of that whole situation? Who's gonna prevail?
Well, look, I think if Boeing cannot figure out how to pay their St. Louis employees what they're paying their West Coast employees, the people that really lose is the American taxpayer, because typically scabs come in, they're not as well trained and not well equipped, right? That's kind of part of it. And I've been putting a lot of thought into this. Like, the West Coast market is very different than the Midwest market. It always has been, it always will be. However, if you look at the corporate jobs, you can get West Coast pay and live in the Midwest, because a lot of jobs are now where you can do it from home, right? Like, if you look at those kind of trends in the white collar world, there is a point to be made that, well, if they can do it there, we can do it here as well for the blue collar hourly employees like ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you mentioned the taxpayers, but who else I think suffers is the U.S. military.
Sure. Right. Yeah. And I think that's where I kind of was heading with that, because obviously, like, we put our money into our tax dollars into the military to protect us. Right.
I see.
Yeah. That's where I was going with it. And
gotcha.
I didn't quite get there.
Well, that's probably my fault. I probably interrupted you.
No. I think I went on a whole other train of thought. No, I think I agree with that 100%. Right. Because, I mean, these aircraft are so sophisticated, like, you need skilled technicians and engineers to make it happen. And
that's where I think personally that Boeing is going to cave. I really think that's the end game there. There's no way that they can have these untrained, unskilled. They need their workers back.
That's right.
They do. We need the workers back to build these planes.
Right.
So I think it's just a matter of time. I think, my personal opinion, Boeing's going to cave. So I guess that's good news for the union.
It is, and we'll keep an eye on it for sure.
One thing that keeps coming up, whether you're in white collar or blue collar, and I would say white collar more than blue collar right now, is AI. Are you have any thoughts on AI and job displacement?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think, like in the 80s, it was a very big concern that automation was going to replace the blue collar worker, right? And all these robots and things like that. And now the white collars getting a taste of it through AI, which is, it really is just another type of robotics, just a little more high speed, right?
It's not a big arm that's moving a pallet.
But it's all happening on the microchip, right? All these hard drives, right? All the cloud-based computing, all that. And I've seen it. So our show, Jeffco Patriot Radio, we do a lot of stuff that we would have to hire a digital marketer for and all that, where I've got Opus Clip and I've got ChatGPT, and I put out some pretty top-notch stuff that people love to see. Right?
It's just a click of a button.
Just a click of a button.
A couple clicks.
So to put it in perspective, I was able to put out 14 Facebook reels on Facebook, Instagram, and X within 2 hours, and they had captions, they had all the editing done, they had anything you named it, all of the hashtags, and it was all done and scheduled to go out for the next week.
And it's only going to get more advanced.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And more advanced meaning it's also going to get cheaper, which that means it's going to drive down the cost of someone that's doing digital marketing on their own, right?
Good point. Yeah. So you think of AI the white collar and the effects of AI. Mm-hmm. But even in the trades, I've been online and I've kind of explored this. They have drywall robots. They have robots that can 3D print a house. It's not going to be a Victorian mansion.
Sure, right, yeah.
But it's a house.
Right.
And they have bricklaying robots now. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the white collar industry. Now we're seeing advances even in the trades.
Sure.
What do you think about that? Do you think it will displace jobs in the trades? Or
well, the thing is with those, like I haven't seen any of those firsthand yet, but they're going to have to be serviced by a mechanic.
Good point.
And so it may the types of blue collar jobs may change, but there'll still be the blue collar jobs where you need to tinker with something.
Yeah.
Those kind of things I think will always be there on some capacity. So it may be drywallers go away, but drywall robot mechanics becomes a trade that now we can look at. Now the other thing of it's a really interesting thing, as a free market guy, right? I go, okay, all these automation things, they make they'll displace workers, they make the product cheaper, so more people can buy it, so you don't actually have to make as much money and buy a nicer quality product. And a case in point with that, at our shop, when we got our first automated coil line that makes a bunch of straight duct, what took like 10 guys a week to do takes one guy 8 hours to do now, and they were very upset with the idea of how many jobs that displaced. But actually, what it created a lot of smaller mom and pop places that were able to afford to buy ductwork from us and install it themselves. So it actually created an opportunity for a lot more market shakeup in what was being done, and created different kinds of jobs in different ways.
Well, you're the first guest I've had on that actually had something good to say about AI. So that I like the point you just made. And then also, even if I don't think drywallers are going to go away, because let's take, for example, a drywall robot. Mm-hmm. It's mudding and taping or whatever it's doing. Machines break.
Right.
Or they malfunction.
Right.
And not just will you need a mechanic. I would think if I was a contractor, I'd want a drywaller there.
Yeah,
almost supervising that machine.
That's right. Yeah.
So congratulations, you became a supervisor.
Right. Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah. So,
even take it one step further.
Yeah.
So our collective bargaining agreement, I make $52 an hour. Okay. When my dad first started journeyman, it was like $14 an hour.
Right.
All those automations, they made us more efficient, which means we can ask for more per hour because we're making our owner more money per hour.
Gotcha.
And so that helps raise my standard of living as well.
So you'd like the robots to take over the world?
Long as I get to supervise them for lots of right. $1 million an hour, sure.
No, but you make good points. And in the blue collar, in the trades, let's just put it that way. There's been a shortage of skilled trades workers, especially here in St. Louis.
Sure.
For quite a while, before the AI thing even came up. But now even more so. And what I've noticed about the unions is they have foresight. They're not waiting for the proverbial, to hit the fan. Mm-hmm. When I go to job fairs, they're out hitting the high schools. They're trying to educate young people at the high school level
right.
that it would be a good idea to get into the trades for various reasons. Not the least of which is you can make, as you pointed out, you make a good living. But so I kind of applaud the unions for doing that, because they're not waiting. They're not being reactive. They're being proactive.
Right.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, and I think it's a really cool time to see that happening, because, you know, when I was a kid in high school, it was, if you don't get a college degree, you're never going to make over $100,000.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, okay, let's just do the math. Let's say you get a college degree and you make a job where you're making $100,000. Well, you're not going to start out with $100,000. You're going to start out with 50, 60, 70, and you're going to work your way up 4 to 5 years. Okay. But you've also got $50, $60, $70,000 of college debt. So what we go to these schools and say is, look, within 5 years, you'll be through your apprenticeship. You will make 6 figures if you want to. My last 5 W-2s, I made over $100,000, which was crazy. No high school, no college diploma, right? And do you know how much college debt I have? 0.
Bingo, right there.
On top of that, I got, so not all unions are the same, but when I went down to my training facility and learned, I got paid to be there. Okay. I got paid my full, whatever was my wage at the time, for 40 hours to be there, to be trained by skilled mechanics on how to continue my career path. So they paid me to train me. And this, again, it's all about the brotherhood. A little bit of my check every week goes to pay for that training facility, to make sure those instructors have what they need to provide good skills for the people that come after me, because they're the ones that are going to be paying my pension.
Right. Yeah. You know, I walked onto a, excuse me, pardon me. I walked onto a construction site recently, and there was a superintendent, and then there was somebody from the union there. I won't mention his name, but he was having a dilemma. Mm-hmm. They were basically laying a retaining wall, and I'm not talking little pavers. These are, you know, huge pavers.
Right.
And his thing was, I need 15 people. I need them right now. And the union hall is kind of dragging their feet because, like I said, we have a shortage.
Right.
You know, what Labor Finders does in San Francisco, we have a working model of this, is we work hand in hand with the unions to feed the unions. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, one entity just can't do it all. I think the unions are doing a great thing, but I think when you walk into a situation like that, you're being told that there's a need there.
Right.
So what I told him is, you know, look, we can pay the union dues. We can get you the labor, but we need to sit down with the union, get everything squared away. We want to make sure that we're working correctly with the union.
Right.
And we need to know what the dues are going to be. And then we just cut you a check, you know? So I wonder if that might start happening a little more. It happens on the West Coast, San Francisco of all places.
Yeah. I think I worked there.
Yeah, right. So, but I'm starting to have conversations with union members to try to get that on the table. And if we can help out, that's what we're going to do, you know? So,
yeah, I mean, I think some of the things you've talked about with that seem like a great like feeder system kind of model, really just one step removed from just hustling at job fairs. I mean, you're just hustling a little harder for us at the job fair, basically, right?
Well, yeah, we're always recruiting.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. And I think, well, hey, this wasn't kind of, we hadn't talked about this, but a curveball, right? Like, let's talk conservative politics. Let's talk about school choice. One of the things I've always thought is, man, it would be really cool to see trade unions get behind school choice and then say, hey, after your sophomore year, your junior and senior year, you can come down here and we're going to make our own high school.
Oh, wow.
And those school voucher credits will pay for your schooling. And then when you get out, you go right to work.
Right into it.
Why not? Why not do that? Why not explore that option? And because I know it's one of those things where it's like solidarity with other unions. So trade unions have solidarity with teacher unions, which are very much against the idea of school choice. But like,
they're very powerful too.
Right. But what would it look like if we had true school choice in Missouri and those vouchers could be used at training schools? So, because like when I was in high school, your senior and junior year, you could go to the VOTEC college at Jefferson College and do some sort of mechanic or any kind of industrial training there and get your high school degree that way. What if these trades said, hey, we want a piece of that action because we think we can put out a better product?
Not only is that innovative, and I congratulate you for thinking outside the box. But aren't we working on school choice here in Missouri?
Well, we are. We're working really hard at it, but there's just a lot of roadblocks. And surprisingly, for a red state in rural Missouri, when a lot of smaller schools and smaller communities where their church and their school, right, are their social community centers, they're worried about those being defunded through a lot of smaller schools. And I get that viewpoint, but I think they're missing the forest for the trees because of all the other opportunities that would be there for them.
Stepping over a dollar to pick up a dime, so to speak.
Right, because there's nothing that says that those public schools are going to be defunded, because if there's no other option, kids are still going to go to those public schools.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, speaking of obstacles, or I should say potential obstacles.
Yeah.
Right to work. Mm-hmm. I know that's a subject that's hotly contested these days.
Right.
And it's been on the ballot before, hasn't it?
It has, twice in Missouri.
And so I'm just going to let you talk.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, just vaguely generally on right to work?
So, I'm in an odd spot. I am a Republican whose party platform is pro right to work, but I am 100% against right to work. I always have been, always will be, and I will always do everything I can to fight that at every level.
Why is that?
Well, the big reason is because a lot of there's twofold reasons, right? One is I think it's a little misleading, the idea of worker choice, because there's already worker choice there, and I'll get into that in a second. The other is just my viewpoint of conservative principles of government staying out of private business practices, right? So on to the illusion of there not being any worker choice. So I think it's like somewhere between 7 to 11% in the private market are unionized, and it kind of depends on if you add the public sector numbers. But
that's not a lot.
It's a very minuscule number. Yeah. Okay, so we're not driving a lot of inflationary things, right? But it also means if I want to be a non-union sheet metal worker, I've got 90% of the market I could go be a non-union sheet metal worker in. And when you look at let's say private or public sector unions, like teachers unions, police officers unions, postal service workers, by law, those are already open shops. They already don't have to pay those union dues if they don't want to.
And see, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the option's already there for them. There's options there for non-union folks. You just can't work in a union shop. Why would you want to work in a union shop if you wanted to not be non-union? That makes no sense to me. Now, on to the conservative principles of it. One is the fact that I don't believe government should meddle in business affairs. If two willing parties want to create a contract, a union shop or a shop that wants to be union and a union, they want to come together to sign a contract that says all your sheet metal workers will be our dues paying members, then they should have every right to do that and exclude non-union members if that's what they agree to. Okay. The other thing is once you bring in non-union employees, it creates a number of issues. And when I see these as conservative principles of we don't want any freeloaders. We want everybody to pull their weight. We don't want to give handouts, right? So take, for instance, I'm going to have someone that's non-union working next to me. Now, I've paid my dues. I've paid down to that training facility that has taught me. Mm-hmm. And then this guy gets to learn from what I'm doing hands-on without paying into that.
I see.
Okay?
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to pay. He's being subsidized by me. No different than someone being subsidized by the federal government for name your, pet project, right? The other thing is, in a union shop, even if you don't pay dues in a right to work state, the union that is recognized in that shop has to represent you, even if you don't pay for the representation.
I didn't know that either.
Right. So whatever contract they negotiate, you get to partake in that. You get
all the protections,
right? But you don't pay for that. And so, so again, it's another act of freeloading off of me paying my dues. So as a conservative, I don't want anybody freeloading off my blood and sweat. And in the sheet metal industry, it is legitimately blood, sweat, and tears, right? And so those are the reasons why I am against it on a very principled level. Not to mention that I've seen what right to work has done to unions in those states.
I was going to bring that before I do, though. So basically what I'm hearing from you is, first of all, people already have choice.
They do.
They don't need more.
That's correct.
because, like you said, 7-8%, whatever it is, are union shops, and the rest you're free to go there.
That's right.
That's okay. And then you talked about what you've seen in other states. I'm thinking of states like Tennessee and Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas is a big one for us as a Local 36 guy. When that went right to work, that was a pretty strong sheet metal union state. When that went right to work, pretty quickly they couldn't support themselves, and Local 36 here in St. Louis had to kind of take them over. And then I think it was about maybe 5 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, they finally had to shut down operations in Arkansas because they didn't have enough dues coming in to support the business agent, to support the workers down there. Now, they gave them all options to come up here and find jobs, but a lot of them didn't because, I mean, that's been their home, right? So
yeah, they're not going to.
It literally shut the union down over 25 years.
You know what else it shut down?
What's that?
Good wages.
Good wages, absolutely.
Because we have welders in Arkansas. I know this for a fact. You can get away paying a welder $15, $16 down there.
Right.
Here, even in our non-union shops, because we have some clients that are non-union as well, but they'll at least pay 22, 23, 24, 25.
No, that's a great point. So when I started in my trade, I had a buddy that I graduated with, and he decided he wanted to do his own thing instead of getting the trade with me. And because I'm like, my dad, I know a guy, right? Like, dad's an instructor down there. Nepotism worked for me. I'm very sorry.
for
right?
nepotism.
Right, yeah. But, he decided to stay non-union and did it. And every time I got a raise through my apprenticeship, I called him. And he didn't get matched completely where I was, but he got a raise every time because his contractor wanted to keep the unions out. And so he kept his wages competitive to keep the unions at bay, right? Yeah. So that is a real effect we have, even with how minuscule our market share really is.
So you've seen the damage that it does.
Yeah.
And it's a comprehensive damage. It's not just to the unions.
Right. It is a trickle. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to talk about Reagan's trickle down economics. Like, it is the epitome of that, right? Like, because then I don't have the money to invest in my community and buy things in my community, which means there's less sales tax in my community, which, as a county councilman, I know that municipalities and counties, they live off sales taxes, right? And so then your services start to get cut, and it's just a downward spiral.
Another thing, you brought up in your principles part of that argument when you were talking about conservative principles.
Right.
You don't believe that government should trot all over the business community or anybody for that matter.
Right.
One thing that I was a little bit, I came face to face with this past year when Prop A was on the ballot here in Missouri.
Sure.
And I thought and one of the things about Prop A, I don't mind the minimum wage increase at all. I think it's going up to 15 in Missouri.
Which effectively it is without that law anyway. I mean, when McDonald's workers are getting paid starting out at $15 an hour, like, do you need a law to
that's my point.
that?
Everybody always talks about minimum wage, and I'm thinking, I don't know anybody that pays minimum wage. It wouldn't get anybody.
Right, exactly right.
But also, what came out of that, or what almost came out of that, was the paid sick leave that they try to impose blanket statement over all these businesses. They had some carve outs for certain
always
sizes,
do, right?
Right. But they wanted to dictate to businesses how they were going to run their own paid sick leave programs.
Right.
And I saw it as something that was going to be devastating for small business, especially, but even a burden to bigger businesses, larger businesses. And you have anything to say about that, by the way? Yeah.
So I took a little bit of flack from my union buddies over this one because it's one of those things. Well, it's for workers, so we're all for it, even whether we're union or non-union. And my viewpoint on this is twofold. One, we need, I think, a strong union is a union that has diversity of shops to work at. And because of that, like, when you have these regulations, the big companies aren't going to, they're going to hurt a little bit, but they can afford it, right? Your Walmarts, your Amazons, your Costcos, they can take those hits. But the small mom and pop places, they can't take those hits. They close up, and then there's less diversity and opportunity, especially in like a trade like ours, which is so diverse. You need different types of shops, right? But then there is the fact that I personally think the unions are the strongest, and they have their best collective bargaining power when they offer things that the government doesn't. Right. So taking paid sick leave. Like, I don't need the government to talk about paid sick leave. Like, I need my business agents to have that put in our collective bargaining agreement. Then that's something we have that nobody else has, which is going to make more people want to be part of our collective bargaining unit. And so, I'm very much against, and again, I go, a lot of my union friends are kind of like, what are you doing when I say this? Like, I'm against minimum wage laws. I'm against, a lot of these things that have been imposed on the business community, because I say, why not let the unions be unions and work for the workers? The government, I don't want the government to work on my working conditions. I want my union. And there's a perfect case in point. There are so many stupid and irrelevant OSHA regulations that make my life more dangerous as a sheet metal worker.
Really?
Yeah. Like this, for instance, there's when it comes to tie off points and stuff like that, there's so many times to meet the OSHA regulations that literally the safety guy goes, look, I don't know how you're going to do it, but someone's got to get up there to make a tie off point and tie off to it. I'm going to be back in 4 hours. Get it done. And so we got to do really unsafe stuff to get up there to create a tie off point so that we could be safe down here when we were already safe down here, right?
It almost sounds like a Monty Python sketch.
There are times when it feels like that. Now, again, there are things that are good there, because you look at and this kind of goes, so there's non-union contractors don't care about this stuff, right? And so that is why OSHA is there to be a bare minimum for them. But again, if that's not there, then all the more reason for me as Joe Blow on the street to go, I want somebody that's going to care about me. I'm going to join a union.
Yeah. Well, that's enlightening. I didn't know about all that. I've never heard anybody say that OSHA has regulations that actually make the work more dangerous.
They do. Well, I mean, there's another one.
Thought?
There's another one at our shop. Like, there was pieces of someone got hurt at the new shop I'm at, and then OSHA came in and said, you got to add this card, and this card. Well, first off, if OSHA is requiring it, all of a sudden we have to make it, and the manufacturer doesn't make safeguards for that. So how did that happen?
Right.
Second off, it's almost impossible to use the machine now. It's just a pain in the butt.
It's bureaucracy. And you heard it on this show, folks. Billy Crow is anti-OSHA. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. He's not anti-OSHA. You know what else? Almost said a bad word there. But you know what else really bugs me about our state? And is IP reform.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you
Right.
talk about that on your show sometimes.
Yeah.
So, what can you explain to the audience how IP reform kind of works? It doesn't have to be technical.
Yeah.
But basically, what happens in Missouri and how people can come in from out of state and change their laws.
Sure. So it's not as plain and simple as it looks on the surface. People talk about it, right? So there is, through the initiative petition process, which is signing a bunch of petitions, and then it gets put on a statewide ballot for referendum. You can do that to change laws in Missouri, right, that are in the code books, and you can also do that to change Missouri's constitution. Okay, so to be able to change laws, okay, that's that makes sense because those things aren't super hard to change. But when it comes to changing the constitution, that's something that should be very hard, because these are the rules we play by for everything else, right? These are the things that are the bare minimum how the state should function. I mean, look at the U.S. Constitution, right? It's I think if you print it in a book, right, it's 4 pages at most, right? The Constitution itself, but with the Missouri Constitution is I want to say, I think it's over 100 pages right now, right?
That's a little bit much.
I mean, when you talk about the marijuana constitutional amendment that got put on, that alone was 40 pages of legalese, lawyer jargon, right? And all you ever see is the little tagline that you're voting yes or no on.
Well, and that gets us back to how the IP thing works with this, because the people that are standing out in front of Walmart and Target, they're not giving you what's all in there.
Right.
They're giving you something marketable that is going to make you sign your name.
Right. And that's exactly right. And a lot of market research goes into that. And obviously that takes dollars to do that. And one of the things IP reform has got a bad rap for, and it is true to a very large extent, is people that are billionaires that aren't citizens of Missouri, that aren't citizens of the United States,
Good point.
that aren't even citizens of this half of this hemisphere of the globe, right? That can pour money into this and shape our what we have to live by. And that's not local politics at all. And a lot of people say, oh, the people, it needs to be the people's choice. Well, when billions of dollars are coming in from a different country, a continent away, an ocean away, that's not the people really getting a choice.
No, that's an agenda.
That's exactly right. Now, this is very tricky for me. I have mixed feelings about this. I want our Constitution to be hard to change, okay? However, IP reform is the reason that we don't have right to work in Missouri.
So there's a catch.
There is a catch, right? So because you say, well, if it's harder to change the Constitution one way, can't it be harder to change it the other way? Sure. However, there's still a mechanism for your state reps to change the Constitution. If the state reps decide they want to make a constitutional amendment, they can pass in the House and the Senate and sign by the governor, and then it goes out to the people to vote on instead of getting petitions in it for it to vote on. So now the way that it's been set up, it definitely makes it harder to change the Constitution through IP reform. Because what it used to be was a simple 51% majority got you across the line, whether the constitutional amendment was from the legislative body or from initiative petition process. However, now, if it comes from the state legislature, it's still just a 51% to change the Constitution of a vote of the entire state. But when it comes to initiative petition process, 51% of the entire state plus you must have a 51% vote in each congressional district. And the reason that's important is so that basically you can't blare this on Kansas City, Springfield, and St. Louis TV and radio and marketing and just those three markets and win the day because those are the big metropolis areas, right? But however, though, let's say right to work got passed by the Missouri House and it won with somehow with 51.01% or whatever. To get it revoked, you're going to have to convince farmers in the boot heel. You're going to have to convince farmers, up almost to Omaha, Nebraska, why they need to support unions. And that's a hard sell.
Yeah, we're talking about a double-edged sword there.
It is. It really is, yeah.
Well, Billy, we're kind of running out of time.
Yeah, we're long-winded today, aren't we?
We're a little long-winded, but I have a surprise for you.
Okay.
I like your hat. I want to ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Because every time I see you, like on the website or on your show, you're wearing a hat. Not always.
Yeah.
But most of the time, yeah. And it's a really great looking hat. It's a great look for you.
Yeah.
But where is it? I went to Walmart today.
And
I bought this thing right here. And it's not as cool as yours, but I want to put it on for the rest of this interview because I want to be like Billy.
All right.
And maybe get some style going in my podcast, right? So, but, and this thing, I got to admit, I look more like a pimp than Billy
I was going to
Crow.
say, I think I've seen that exact hat on Vladimir Lenin when he's giving talks, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, please don't. No. So what, is that kind of like your thing? Do people know you from your hat?
It's kind of interesting. My grandfather always wore this style hat. And when he passed, this is actually one of his hats, and I just kind of kept wearing it, and because just for the world to know, I'm turning.
How brave of you! You're very brave.
I'm going bald, right? And actually, I've had a heckler on our Facebook page that asked if I'm bald or not because I always wear a hat. But I love the hat. I love the style, and my grandfather wore it, and so this is his. And I've got a couple other ones since then that are different colors. But yeah.
Well, that's actually so it means something to you.
It does. It does. Yeah.
You know what I forgot to mention, and I do want to get this out there. You know, obviously we talked before this podcast. You have a kind of a slogan that talks about your strategy and your philosophy about something about bringing the right to the union to. Do you? Yeah.
So one of my big goals is because Jefferson County is a very strong union county, always has been, and that's why I voted blues so often. But one of my goals as I work through politics is to try to bring the unions to the right and bring the right to the unions and try to mend that gap. Because in my personal beliefs, I believe that the Republican Party's platform is better than the Democratic Party's platform, except for one thing, and that's right to work. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again to my dying breath. If Missouri got rid of right to work from its Republican Party platform, the Democrats will never win another elected seat ever again in the state of Missouri, and St. Louis will turn red.
Strong statement. Strong statement. But I love it because I just love the slogan. I want to bring the right to the union and the union to the right.
That's right.
Billy Crow doing all he can. So that's really great. Yeah. Billy, it's been great having you on.
It's been a fun time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And hopefully we have you back on sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Billy. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, so that's the show. Billy Crow, what a great guest. He's bringing the right to the union and the union to the right. If that's not marketable, I don't know what is. And I wish him all the best with that. So stay tuned, by the way, for the job of the week. That's coming up. And next week, we have a guest named Whitney Rubin. And folks, if you're having trouble selling your house or you know somebody that is, Whitney's going to help you with that. She's got some great tips and tricks for that. So tune in next week, Tuesday at 10. Hire Away with Collins Harlan. Thank you.
Hire away with Collins Harlan.